Everyone out of trouble. And the thing is, I don't really edit, so now we've started. So everyone, welcome back to the Sam Peeps podcast. Today I'm with a fellow Sam, so two Sams for the price of one. Sam Peeps, welcome to the show, mate.
Go ahead. Thank you for having me on, Sam.
No worries. So we're just going to dive straight in before that magic 30-second click-off number. If people don't know you and the work that you do you want to give us your Cliff Notes backstory?
Yeah, sure. So my background, I'm going to take it all the way back, is actually a little bit of an unconventional one. So if I go back to undergrad, I did an undergrad very, very, very different to the conventional. It was actually in business admin. Yeah, believe it or not. I didn't go down the science route. Yeah, spreadsheets. You're trying to learn how to build a business, SWOT analysis and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So, I had a very, very different undergraduate to a lot of our peers. And it was only after doing my undergraduate that I really realized where I belonged. So then went on to do the postgrad in strength conditioning. And then after that, I was kind of merging into the personal training environment while doing my postgrad. And then off the back of the postgrad, I was renting a space just off the Fulham Road beneath the Starbucks. It was a small personal training studio, which was actually owned by two ex-GB kickboxing champions, believe it or not.
Wow.
A couple of footballers were doing some extra yoga there. One who was at Crystal Palace and then one who was at Fulham at the time. The one who was at Crystal Palace, I'm now a mate of his 8-9 years down the line. And he's been a client of mine for 6 or 7 years.
Is he mates with Callum Wilson?
Not that I'm aware of. Probably.
I think he is. But anyway, yeah.
The Fulham player was the one that I eventually plucked up the courage and grew a pair to actually go and have a chat with. I mean, the guy is 6'7", professional footballer. I'm very new to this game. Haven't really spoken to a pro in this environment before. Actually spoke to him. He ends up being the biggest gentle giant there is. I tried to get in at Fulham that year. Fulham ended up getting relegated that season, so they kind of shut the doors, and he wasn't willing to introduce me to anyone that season. And then he went to Crystal Palace the following season. I then was knocking on Breda's door again, saying, "Look, can you hook me up? Introduce me to anyone."
Yeah.
He then introduced me to the head of sports science at Crystal Palace, and then I had the interview and got the job there.
What year was that?
Back in 2016.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The glory days.
The glory days. I had Alan Pardew and Sam Allardyce there.
What were they like?
Class. Pardew was actually quite intimidating. He kind of is exactly what he says on the tin. What you'd see in an interview or in the media. Allardyce was a joker. On day one, he found out my nickname was Big Sam. So,
guess what my nickname is?
I was on the halfway line. I'd just been setting up some drills pre-training, and then he came up to me, barged into me, and he goes, "There's only one room for Big Sam around here."
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, no, he's
My fiance's kids, sister's kids call me Big Sam.
Oh yeah.
So now there's 3 Big Sams. Let's go beat up Sam Allardyce.
I've actually lost that nickname now, believe it or not.
No.
Maybe it was just the stress of being an entrepreneur and business owner.
Yeah.
I fizzled away like a balloon.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Caro, so you had those two, like Sam Allardyce, England managerial legend as well.
Yeah.
How you mentioned like they're basically Ron Seal types of guys. Like, is there any sort of instances that you're like, fuck, I didn't expect that, or this is what it takes, sort of thing? There was some eye-opening moments.
I think it's the way in which they're both very different leaders, very different. I'd say Alan was probably more of an authoritarian kind of approach, whereas Big Sam would be slightly more paternalistic, have a bit more of a joke in his locker, whereas Alan is my way or the highway. There wouldn't be much room for banter within the dressing room or on pitch. Right. I didn't actually ever seen that behind the scenes either. But then, Big Sam on the other hand, some of the other stuff, I don't know whether I'm actually able to say it on this podcast.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whether it is censored, but yeah, anything goes with him. Put it that way.
Yeah, love it,
Yeah.
it. Good stuff. And so you were there 2016. How long were you there for?
I was there for 2 years. Yeah, I was initially there on the intern scheme as an assistant. Worked in the academy and worked my way up. Had some exposure with the 21s and first team. And then my decision to jump ship was purely based on where I saw myself long term, and then also what I had alongside it. I already had my own business, not necessarily a thriving business back then, but it was still a business. I had a good number of clients. I was trying to do both at the same time, which is unrealistic based on the demands of football. And there was an offer from an agency, a football agency, to come and work with them officially. So that was another contributor towards me jumping ship. I kind of saw the light there, and I thought, you know what, this sounds good. Almost sounds too good to be true. It was in a way. I still do work with various agents from that agency, but it didn't end up being a fully fledged contractual agreement with them to work with their players.
I think that's some really. Sorry, I think you share some really good insight. Sorry to interrupt you, because it's such a skill to be in a situation and then see what's coming, and then over the next 10 years, to have the foresight. How old were you then?
30. Yeah, 30.
Yeah.
I do everything a little bit later.
Yeah,
everything's. I'm a late developer.
Yeah. But then you've got experience, and I always tell the story when I went to the World Athletics Centre in 2013, before it was Allardyce, and it had a good few weeks on the road there with my mate Ryan Hicks from Wasps, and we met like 20 odd coaches, and they were all single or divorced, and I was like, this is not, excuse me. And they're like in their 40s. I'm like, this, I can see the rubber meets the road here. And then you get back, and then you look at like the general health of the people that you're working around. And you're like, hang on.
This is a correlation there.
Yeah, we can churn and burn this bad boy, and see where it goes. Because the love of sport is the thing that I guess gets us into it. Did you want to be a professional footballer?
I had a feeling that might be coming. Yeah. I mean, I think in order to become a pro athlete, I don't need to tell you this. It needs to come from an early age, and there needs to be a bit of backing / a lot of backing from parents and your support group. My parents were pro education, so I went down that route. Played football recreationally. Thought I had a chance at one point because one scout said something to you or to a friend and whatnot, and then you're like, "Ooh, maybe I've got it." No, you need to be pushed into the environment, don't you? Really, and then hopefully thrive. But for me, it was a pipe dream at one point, but never really got close to being a reality.
In rugby, your face has to fit big time. Like I never played rugby at school. So when you were getting picked, we didn't play rugby at school, so academies didn't come to watch us at school. I was doing outreach to clubs. Like I was picking up the phone and calling the ticket office, and the academy manager, Tony Diprose at Harlequins, called me back to tell me to stop calling because they don't recruit that way. And then I got into the rugby paper. I was late developer as well. Got into the rugby paper because I was playing Saturday and Sunday and had scored like 24 tries or something in the first 8 games. And the guy that ended up employing me for Wasp Academy came to scout me the day I broke my leg. And it was like sliding doors moment. He turned up at the wrong club. I had moved clubs to try and he told me that later. And I was like, oh, fuck. But like loads of coaches do have those dreams of being professional athletes, especially S&C sort of, and then they kind of push that dream. And I felt it. I was always playing senior rugby when I was working, that was all in my contracts. Like I'm still playing. I'm not doing games. I still want to play because you don't pay me enough, and I get paid to play rugby. So I was always playing it. But then you saw so many people who give up sport to then foster their own sporting dreams, childhood dreams, and they stick it into some player who can't even put his own weights away. Does that resonate with you at all?
100%. Yeah. I would say that was probably one of the biggest contributing factors towards my career choice.
Yeah,
it was my way of getting close to a game that I love. I've always followed football since I was very young. I used to collect those they called the photo albums where you collect the
Premier League stickers
stickers, something like that.
Yeah, you used to get so many of the average players. You're like, does anyone want like? No, the first one comes to Peter Schmeichel, but like, does anyone want a Nicky Butt? I've got that 30 Nicky Butts and
or a David May from that
Manchester United era. Yes, David May. Yes.
Yeah, we even used to go to the swap shops and stuff to try and complete it. I mean, every year, it's mad looking back on it. But I loved it from a very early age, and I just saw it as where I belonged later in life.
Yeah. And it's good to have done that. And then I think what's really interesting is obviously, agents are really good at talking, and they're agents for reasons. And I think when I was at Wasps, there was a guy, I think his name was Travis. And like Haskell, like Margot Wells was doing some bits, and Haskell Wadey and all that. And then the physios used to hate it. He would just like do MAT stuff with them and help just upregulate the body. And so, but football has always been a little bit different. There's like, if you think 2016, maybe even before that, players may have had their own outside help. So what was that? Tell me that story of how you got in there.
With regards to just general work, yeah,
and like ending up working with players, through the agency.
So, stuff like that. Like I mentioned, it started. I had a friend, really old friend of mine, who was part of this arrangement with this agency, who initially suggested it to me. A friend of mine, for 20 years or so, really, really good mate, and it was a combination of him suggesting it, and then once the idea and the seed had been sown, one of the founders of the company also had a meeting with, was just very, very keen on the idea. He didn't know how to orchestrate it. He kept sort of whispering sweet nothings and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll do off-season camps, and we'll get Sky to come down and cover it." I was thinking, all right, here we go. This sounds great.
So selling me the Saturday.
Selling me the dream. Where do I sign? Kind of thing. But that off-season camp didn't end up happening. Just to sort of fast forward a little bit, we've ended up having to just completely grow that from the ground up. But it initially started with them sending over a couple of players. It was done initially on a sort of trial basis. From being introduced to various agents through there, I was introduced to other middlemen, other representatives who are scouts, recruiters, football coaches, and then they sort of open up the network to other agencies and then other players. I was never fully committed to one agency from the start, and I just realized quite quickly that perhaps opening the doors a little bit more to others would probably be the best way of doing this.
And so why do you go on?
They can say one thing and then do another, right? So I'd rather keep the options open.
Yeah, absolutely. The old double pump fake. So if we think about it, from one side of the coin, I've been in club and I've been working with players outside as well. Obviously, rugby is definitely not the same as football, and I think why do players from inside the game come and work with you? What aren't they getting at the
Very
club?
good question.
What is that for them? Because I think it's a really important thing to really understand for people.
I think it stems from having something which is I'm going to say slightly more individualized to them. They seek comfort in programming and offering. I'm going to say more of an offering than a program, because the program is obviously very isolated. The offering in itself and the detail that we can go into when it comes to managing them, I'm not going to say is going further down the hole, but for a lot of players, you know, they seek comfort in that offering just being much more specific to them, as opposed to it being slightly more generic, right?
Yeah.
For example, I had a conversation with a player who I've known for a few years. We haven't worked together. He's just a mate, but we catch up every now and again. He's on loan from Oxford, gone to Smith, and he said to me the other day, I just told the S&C coach I'm not doing that session because I've just done 1,200 meters of high speed running, and my position and my needs are very different to centre half who's doing 400 meters max maybe. You know, I don't want to go in and lift heavy. My legs don't feel like it. I know what's going to happen if I do it. So I would rather just focus on doing something which is going to be a bit more restorative for me, which my body prefers. So I think it's kind of having the ability to be able to give something which is unique to them, and then also just tinker with things a little bit more on the fly. We have very, very regular communication with those that we have the luxury of working with remotely. We have a very good platform which caters for managing all aspects of them and all the variables. So we're able to make these decisions. I make the process very interactive as well. So I suppose it's just the level of detail.
Well, you make a really fucking valid point there. Like, that SC coach needs to get fucking sacked, basically. Because, I mean, I don't know him. I don't want him to lose his job. But, you know, if you're in there long enough, you're getting fired at some point. But, you know, that's negligence. Because if you think about that isolated example, and there are probably hundreds of them that happen every day across professional sport. Like, I've been in some in WASP back in the day, right? Quickly, I just remembered this. The head of S&C, we were in the gym together, and he called all the players in, and he was like, lads, you need to stop asking Sam for the GPS numbers because he doesn't like it. And I was like, you fuck? Really? No, you're not. You don't want them to know the numbers.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you don't want them to know the numbers because you are getting them flogged, and so then they'll come and do their fucking 5x5 on back squat sort of thing, and this is where like my passion for this stuff is so like gets ignited. Like, you played sport, you understand sport. Then where in the world, you know, does it feel like you want to do lowers after 1,200 meters of high speed running? Like, and what is the point? People say, "Oh, it's injury prevention." No, it's not. It is not. You know,
I know you're very passionate about this topic as well. So
the only thing predictable in fucking biology is a woman's period, and that's it. So you are not able to say that for a fact. And you know, I've got about 30 books here that would completely disregard that statement that you need to do it to make. You actually need to understand trainability, not training residuals, because they mean fuck all in sport anyway. So carry on with, you know, because there's coaches will be listening to this that want to understand, you know, what type of platform you're using, how are you working with these players, like what's the flow that you do, because I think it's fascinating.
So we are going to the details of the actual the offering in itself, and then I can come on to the platform that we use. We have the ability to be able to pick up everything from any wearable, any Whoop, or which I know are becoming more and more popular, especially more specifically the Whoop in football. So we can get access to all their sleep data, monitor their HRV. We can also get the GPS data. That's all integrated as well. So we can start to then get quite a good picture of what it looks like. Also, if we go into the details of how we monitor overall volume load in the gym as well, they've got very neat charts and graphs of how it's all presented and everything. So, you know, everything from, you know, what they do on the training side of things to how they recover is presented to us over a 30-day period. We look at trends. We can look at 7-day averages on HRV, and whatnot. So it just gives us a really, really detailed way of being able to try and manage them. The platform is called,
really comprehensive.
the platform is called Lumen, which
Lumen.
is Lumen, Lumin. Relatively new sports science S&C kind of fit. Which is one.
If I was Joe Rogan, I'd go, Jamie, pull that shit up.
Get it up now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's amazing. I've never heard of this, and that's that's a serious amount of really valuable data, isn't it?
Yeah, we match the objectivity with the subjectivity. I mean, this is where I'm being hypercritical of my own training practice. I love and I hate well-being reports. I think sometimes they don't give you the information that you should be getting. Is that fair?
And all the lies.
We still use them. We have the ability to be able to send out these reports. They can be done daily. We have the ability to be able to do that.
I watched an academy player down 3 liters of water to make weight.
Oh God!
Yeah,
are we gonna go into that? Well, I used to do hydration tests at Palace, right? I used to have to get this every morning. We used to have guys that would come in and, well, firstly, I'm not here to name names on this one. I'd have some that would take the vial from me and then just go like this in front of me, just drop it on the floor in front of me. I'd have another guy who would take a bottle of water in with him, and we know what he's doing with the bottle of water.
Yes. Oh man!
And then you try and give out some, electrolytes because your numbers are a little bit off. Coloration's not where you want it, and that would get left on the gym floor. And whatnot. So it's kind of like you're doing something to.
Well, there's no trust, is there?
No, I know it was. Yeah, it's the one part of the monitoring which we just never really got a lot of buy-in.
A lot of places don't, mate. A lot of places don't, mate. Sleep, mood, soreness, 77777.
Yeah. Whereas now we can track it. There is, I'd love to go to sleep, but I don't want to try and mess with things right now. It's pretty neat. There's no hiding there. We can always, argue the reliability of this, radial monitoring, which is what a Whoop is, but it's better than nothing. So
this is sick. I'm just looking at it now. This is very nice. This is who owns this? Is it former coaches or
Australian? There is.
It bloody is.
Yeah.
Try and get those fuckers on a podcast. I'll be here at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. One of them is former coach, and then the others are all techies. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice. So if you want to check it out, guys, Lumen. There you go. But you get so we break the trust barrier by they are wearing something that they trust, and then they know that you can see that data, and then also probably there's an element of security that you're on their paycheck, so there's a inherent bias towards that as well, which I think is really important. Like you, I worked for myself. I knew how to make money coaching people before I was paid to coach people. And I never treated any of them like they weren't a customer.
Sure.
Where you see the people that have never done it in the industry, they talk to them like they're a piece of shit, or that they should do what they tell them. You've got these little fucking Hitlers with a clipboard walking around the place.
Give me 10.
Yes, and there is that. There is that. So again, like back to that why. Sounds like you've got quite a few players on board. You've got them all over the country. Are you international as well?
Yeah.
That's amazing, mate.
You spread throughout Europe.
Really proud of that.
Yeah, no, it's been. It's obviously been difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say it's very easy. You'll know from being your own boss. And a founder of a number of different businesses and products. It's hard when you're a one-man band. The great thing is now, although I don't have someone here to help make decisions, I do have a very good team that help with the orchestrating of the whole thing. So We have sports scientists, performance nutritionists, recently taken on a physio in the remote space, that is, and then another S&C coach. So yeah, there's a good team of us now, which certainly helps improve the quality of the offering.
Yeah, it's amazing. And think of like the way, because when I first started, like S&C wasn't even a thing. You could be a physio, sports therapist, or a personal trainer, and then you're like, oh, you can. I had a conversation with Craig White, who's like the first paid strength and conditioning coach in rugby in like 1999 or whatever it was when it went pro. And he was like, well, we just fucking did some weights and that was it, and a bit of wrestling. And then he went to figure stuff out. And then, but then now it's strength and conditioning coaches in every gym on the high street. So the market has changed. The world has changed. The way gyms look. Who'd have think like a commercial gym has a sled in it?
I know.
And so with that, the way that high performance works is very different. And fortunate enough, obviously, to do some stuff with guys in the NFL. They have long off seasons. How are you? Because it's something I always was challenged with rugby. Mandatory 5 weeks off in the off season. There's not a lot that you can really do with that time, which is again why the whole holistic piece needs to be addressed. Team sport athletes don't need to be good at S&C. They need to be good at team sport performance. So then how for fucking no shit, how are you managing that, and how are you generating improvement? I think it's
a very good question. I think if you'd asked me this maybe 5 or 6 years ago, my response would be very different. Actually, even maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think the response would be very different. If we look at we don't need to go into the details of the length of the season, but in theory, it's pretty similar to rugby, right? The seasons are pretty similar. You might get 6 weeks at best if you've come out early, and there's been a slight change in the timeframes due to an international cup, such as the World Cup or the Euros. But realistically, you might get 3-4 weeks at best if you're playing high up. That's if you're not called up into one of those cups. And there's now also a Nations League thrown in there as well, which, that's a conversation for another day, but I think it's a complete waste of time. It's not helping. We even had the Club World Cup, which, once again, I mean, it's great for the sport and money, right? But it's not great for the players. They already play enough. So, those guys didn't get an off-season. If they went to the final, like the Chelsea team, they didn't get an off-season. They had probably 2 weeks of downtime, and then they're back into pre-season when pre-season was probably picking up some steam. But from
my old man is a big Chelsea fan, right? Big Chelsea family from that part of London originally, and he was like, "Sam, we just won the Club World Cup," and I was like, "What the fuck is that? What is that, Dad?" He was like, "Another trophy, let's go." And I was like,
true though. It's so true. I mean, it's a newish competition. I mean, if you're a football lover, it's great because you've got the likes of Chelsea playing PSG. Also,
it's
some
like
of the
FIFA in real life, isn't it?
Yeah, which you get in the Champions League anyway, right? But when you bring the South American teams in, there's some great South American teams in both Argentina and Brazil and whatnot. It does get a little bit more interesting, but it still takes away the off season, which, as we know, is such an integral part of the year for players to unwind and get some rest. So we'll look at the timeframes before we start working with the player. We'll get an understanding of minutes played within competitive period and have a look at their exposure there, and decide for whether it's going to be a full 2 weeks or it's going to be 7 days. If, say, for instance, there's been an injury towards the back end of the season, exposure has been very low, then it might be more of a 7 to 10 day before we start slowly re-implementing the biomotors. For us, it's, although some players are like, I want to get faster, I want to get more explosive, it's trying to meet that expectation and explain to them that, the reality of trying to be a hero in the off season is pretty low. We just don't have the time. Naturally, by exposing players to various physical qualities, you get the adaptation, you might get that desired outcome. But I think it's really important to stress that that needs to be a constructive 4-week window, if it is going to be 4 weeks, rather than trying to throw as much shit at the wall and expecting it to stick. And then they go back into pre-season overstimulated and overworked.
Yeah. Because there's a cap, isn't there? There is a cap on physical outputs for team sports. Like I saw that. Yeah, I was chatting to a coach who is in my legacy mastermind. He works out in Germany, and he's like, got these pro players. They want to run as fast as Thierry Henry, and I was like, well, fucking Thierry Henry is Thierry Henry. He was good at football and fast.
He was, yeah.
A lot of these guys don't need to be that fast. They just need to be better at football. So it's kind of like realizing that as well and trying to communicate that must be quite challenging.
Yeah, and the issue that we do tend to have, which it does become more of a challenge than anything, is how much we're wanting to do on the ball in the off season. It's obviously a huge part of it. So naturally it is classified as a stressor on their side. It's something that we would need to take into consideration. There might be very little consistency as to when they're going to be doing what, and so it's the nature of managing any player. There is unpredictability to it. But from our side, if we were to sort of zoom out a little bit, the aim is to prepare them for pre-season, right? And that preparation might be different for one player here to another player there, and it's trying to ensure that we get their loading to a level, whether it be gym-based, pitch-based, whereby they're able to tolerate double sessions when they go in pre-season. That's ultimately what we're striving for.
And because the loading, like I think I have a big thing with rugby, professional rugby. They do too much time on for the demands of the game. Like I think they really do, from my experience. Because when I was at, I did a couple of days up with Burnley, doing some consulting with them. Okay. One of their players when Sean Dyche was there. A guy, Tom Short, brought me in with Mark Howard. I think it was Mark Howard. Mark Howard was the head of performance there. Okay. Are
they still there now?
No, he's at. They're not there now. Tom Short is at Bristol City. Okay. Good, really good coach, great lad. And they Monday, everyone had the morning off, so they could take their kids to school. They were in for 2 hours, like a little bit on pitch. Tuesday, everything was efficient, and it was the year Burnley did really well in the Premier League. They had a solid standing, whereas like rugby, you have to be in for 7:30 for breakfast, and then you don't leave till 4. And so and that's for my longest season in rugby was 52 weeks. Okay. That was the longest season. So the decline is huge. So obviously within professional football, the 3 games, 7 days, double game weeks. Like, how are you making those adjustments to the pitch minutes and the training minutes? And because I think they do it very differently than a sport like rugby. Yeah.
Do you find in rugby though, how often are they peaking multiple times per week, or is it predominantly 1 game a week?
They just 1 game. They couldn't play 2 games a week.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Like after 6 games, there's a famous. I say a famous story. It's famous to me because I've told it so many times. But my old boss, who basically ended up getting me fired, Cockroach. He after 6 games of the league, so he played the 3 preseason games and 6 league games. He went to a max effort lower body strength block, game day +2, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, I was like, have you ever played senior rugby? No. Do you know what 8-9 games does to your body, regardless of whatever position? Like, no. So half these guys can't fucking stand up straight, and that's when it just becomes the goal of general training is to not do general training. And so that was the year where the only 2 metrics we looked at were peak, like max acceleration speeds and max speed, and everything shifted from that. If we weren't tracking that, I didn't care about anything else, which is why I do. I wanted to ask the question because I was curious, but I was assuming the physical toll of the sport means there's no way you're peaking twice a week.
Yeah.
Like a bone on bone. The difference that you've got as well, like the collisions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you play on the wing, when you get hit, you brake because everything's at high velocity. When you're forward, you brake because everything is just such high force. And it's like getting hit. Like, well, there was some old research, but it's like 3-4 car crashes a game. You can get over 10 Gs of force in a collision. Now they've got force loading in the gum shields, which I don't know what they are producing. But like the most dangerous time for a player is when they stop being battle hardened. Some of these back rows are making 28, 29 tackles a game.
Yeah, the toll.
And then they'll go full fucking tin hat on a Tuesday. Like, it's like, dude, really? So, but for football, obviously there's no Terry Butchers left in the modern game. But what for
the
you, like how
changed, that's for sure. Yeah,
it has, hasn't it? It really, really has. And the like what are you doing to manage that, and how, from your experience, because obviously you have a wonderful insight because you're seeing inside so many different clubs at one time. What are you spotting there?
So I think I'm probably best if I start with a couple of quite relevant examples, but to give a bit of context. So we have some collaborations. We have great collaborations with some clubs. I also have to be very transparent here and say that sometimes we don't have a collaboration, and sometimes information is always disclosed by the athlete, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. To be very inquisitive and ask the right questions in order to get the right information. But then unfortunately, that work then can't be disclosed anywhere, just purely because of the nature of the clubs. They make it very challenging for a player to do extra work. They might say, this is very much a tangent, by the way. They might say, in order to be in contention for a first team player, I need you to get from this weight to this weight in the next year, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. So the players then, well, how do I do this? I'm getting no nutritional advice, if that's going to be obviously my biggest constraint here. On the gym side of things, sometimes it can be very sporadic. There's not someone sitting down with me and giving me an explanation of what we're going to be doing throughout a block, for instance, if we're going to go into that sort of detail, and also just generally give me insights into how I'm going to develop that physical aspect in order to build the physical side of things, which is obviously a huge part of stepping up from the 21 system into the first team. And this is where a lot of players tend to struggle. Technically, they might be there. Physically, the demands in the Premier League in the first team is super high. So the way in which we manage it, like going back to what I mentioned, we do have communication with the club. So say for instance, off the back of any game, we'll get screening data from them, which I think for us is really invaluable, just to see how they're responding, and then also how the body is responding over a period of time as games accumulate, and seeing if there's any changes in tissue length, but also how the fatigue is presenting as well when they do neuromuscular testing. One of our players who unfortunately got injured recently went from having regular screening to then 2 weeks of no screening, and then injury happened. But I'm not going to say that is the reason. But it just means there's no informed decisions, right? So we're missing out on the information. But typically we'll get the information from players post game, and then it allows us to make decisions based on that.
Yeah, and so your workflow with this. So thinking like the business side of this, like what are your active touch points and with the players? Are they all? Is it every day? Is it multiple times a day?
Those who are on the remote side of things, it's typically it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then additional post games as well. Post game reporting. With in person, it's obviously very different. Sometimes the work can be a bit more sporadic as well. It just very much depends on the schedule. The 21 system is great because they have a lot of flexibility and opportunities to do extra work, whereas first team environment, I don't understand how first team players are doing more based on what I know about the sport and the fact they are peaking multiple times per week. sometimes they might have 3 games in 10, 11 days. It's always a question I ask, is that, how are you, I mean, it goes back to what I think I know about what a player wants, but then it's also trying to understand whether it's right based on the demands of that player's in.
Yeah, I always, the Rocky IV Drago, if he dies, he dies, right?
Yeah.
That's always stuck with me, because that's basically, if you get there, you have an ability to just stay in one piece more than anyone else. And then you think, they say, oh, he's fucking injury prone. Mate, he is 0.1% of the ones that didn't break. And so it's then we go back to the he just needs general strength. He's not strong enough. Where it's I think that's a whole biomechanics of football and kinematics of football could be a whole different conversation. But I think what's really important, like you touch on there, is having the ability to be proactive in your decision making, and what happens when you don't get that information, and then also, your accountability is to the player. And these games don't exist without the players. And I wish in rugby there was a little bit more ownership of that. I really do, because you can fall victim to malpractice. When in football, you've got guys like yourself saying, putting your hand up, go, look, I'm here. I want to do my best for you. And, you get to pay me. You get to employ me directly, and I'll be your asset and ally. So just sort of to round up, like for you, where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years with this stuff? Obviously, you've built a successful business, and you should be well credited for that. I don't think these podcasts get enough conversation around this sort of stuff. But what's sort of the ambition that you're going for over the next couple of years?
The plan is to, first and foremost, in the short run, the plan is to continue to grow out not only the team, but the offering as a whole. Try and scale that a little bit further. It's something that we have been doubling down on over the last year. We are going to be bringing out a new app, which is going to be a different offering, trying to cater for the masses. My intention is to try and bring something quite neat to the table, which helps with schedule automation based on fixtures. This is one of the biggest challenges that I've faced when trying to dish out something which is a bit, I'm going to say, more scalable, i.e. more of a group offering, or whatever you want to call it, is the flexibility that they need in order to be able to still get the work in. If you're peaking once a week and you're giving them match day plus 3 work and then match day -2 work, well, what happens when they have a 2-game week? What happens there? So it's trying to have some sort of AI automation which allows the schedules to kind of,
that's exciting,
be tweaked.
That's super exciting.
That's the plan. It is very much still focusing on what we have and trying to improve our offering and trying to expand to other horizons a little bit as well.
Amazing, man. That's awesome. So I think personally, what you do is inspiring. I really admire the work you do. We spoke together at the Football Fitness Federation, which was great fun. And the world, like the space, needs more of it. And I'd love to have you back again in 6 to 8 months' time to see how everything's going. But if people want to reach out to you, because I know there are lots of people in football that want to do what you're doing, where could they best contact you?
Feel free to send me a WhatsApp. Instagram's probably the best, like Sam Peeps Performance. That's the best way to get in touch. I'm always open to having a conversation on there.
Awesome.
As long as people don't ask for free products. Straight up.
Fuck off, you freeloaders. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed that.